अतुलितबलधामं हेमशैलाभदेहं दनुजवनकृशानं ज्ञानिनामग्रगण्यं सकलगुणनिधानं वानराणामधीशं रघुपतिप्रियभक्तं वातात्मजं नमामि। मनोजवं मारुततुल्यवेगं जितेन्द्रियं वृत्तिमता वातात्मजं वानरयूथमुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं शरणं प्रपद्ये। श्रीगुरुचरण सरोज रज निजमनमुकुर सुधारि वर्णौ रघुवर विमल जसु जोदायक फलचारि। बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरौ पवन कुमार बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरहु कलेश विकार। जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीस तिहु लोक उजागर। रामदूत अतुलित बल धामा अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा। महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी। कंचन बरन विराज सुबेसा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केसा। हाथ वज्र ध्वजा विराज कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साज। शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन। विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर राम काज करिबे को आतुर। प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया। सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा। भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज सवारे। लाए सजीवन लखन जियाए श्री रघुवीर हर्षि उर लाए। रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरत सम भाई। सहस बदन तुम्हरो जस गावै अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावै। सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा नारद सारद सहित अहिसा। जम कुबेर दिगपाल जहाते कवि कोविद कहि सके कहाते। उपकार सुग्रीव ही कीन्हा राम मिलाय राजपद दीन्हा। तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना। जुग सहस्र जो जन पर भानु लील्यो ताहि मधुर फल जानु। प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माहि जलधि लांघिए अचरज नाहि। दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हरे तेते। राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे। सब सुख लहै तुम्हारी शरणा तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना। आपन तेज समारो आपन तीनों लोक हाकते काप। भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे महावीर जब नाम सुनावे। नासै रोग हरै सब पीरा जपत निरंतर हनुमत बीरा। संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे। सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा। और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे। चारों जुग परताप तुम्हारा है उजियारा। साधु संत के तुम रखवारे असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे। अष्ट सिद्धि नवनिधि के दाता असबर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा। तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे। अंत काल रघुवर पुर जाई जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई। और देवता चित्त न धरई हनुमत से सर्व सुख करई। संकट कटै मिटै सब पीरा जो सुमिरै हनुमत बलबीरा। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई कृपा करो गुरुदेव की नाई। जो सत बार पाठ कर कोई छूटहि बंदी महासुख होय। जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा होय सिद्धि साखी गौरीसा। तुलसीदास सदा हरिचेरा, कीजय नाथ हृदय महडेरा, कीजय नाथ हृदय महडेरा। पवन तनय संकट हरन, मंगल मूर्ति रूप, राम लखन सीता सहित हृदय बसौ सुरभूप। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, उमापति महादेव की जय, बोलो भाई सब संतन की जय। बोलिए श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। We had seen how having conviction in that name of the Nama of Hanumanji, that itself is a great feat to achieve. And with that one feat, if we are able to do, what is going to happen? Nase roga haray sab pira, japanandyantar Hanumat Veera. So first is, we have to know that when Tulsidas ji has said it, he is not just saying it like that only, to encourage us towards devotion to Hanumanji. It is much more that it is his experience and that of various saints and sages he has met, or various Mahatmas, simple Mahatmas, simple sadhus whom he has met, and they have spoken of this. So there also, so even Bhagavan himself tells, say someone like Ratnakar, who was earlier what? He was a thief, right? But in that thief also, Naradji, what did he see? In that thief he saw that there was ample opportunity of this person, this so-called thief, to become a Santa, right? To become a sadhu. And all he did then was give him that Nama power. What was the Nama power? He told him, you just chant the name of Rama, right? And then you see how it works for you. And then that same Ratnakar, what was he able to do? From saying Rama Rama Rama, he went on to say Rama 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 and became Santa Valmiki, right? So here also, even in the Bhagavad Gita it is said, Bhagavan says, Api chet suduracharaha. Right now, even if you see that, this person is going the wrong way, but there is a wee bit chance that there is some goodness in that. And that wee bit chance of some goodness being there is in all of us, right? So who can see that? Only another Mahatma can see that, right? And therefore, he gives the right kind of guidance to that. So in the 9th chapter, Lord Krishna says, Api chet suduracharaha bhajate mam ananya bhav. Even such a person who is walking the wrong path, if he, has conviction in me and chants my name, what happens to such a person? Sadhureva samantavyaha samyak vyavasito visaha. Right? So when such a person becomes a sadhu. So one is that, if we, knowing something, or rather just chanting something, and the other is knowing the meaning of it. So the flavor of that chant will come only when we are able to not just know the meaning, but also reflect on it and own it up. We benefit from most of the chanting, such as Vishnu Sahasranam, such as Bhagavad Gita, any of the shlokas we take, or even, why even Hanuman Chalisa, for instance, if we chant it daily, like most of you all have been putting up, yes, we have chanted today, right? So today I have not yet put it, that I will put it because I thought we were anyways meeting today. So I will say thank you for all of you all participating, those few who are there in the online class. So also, those who watch the recordings later, and they also are participating. So that is a very good, good thing. So one thing more that we can do is not just chant, but also chant with a sankalpa. And there is some intent now in our chanting. So that much more that bhava comes in that, you're doing it for this particular, or I'm pledging it. So when we not only we say the pledge, but we understand what we are pledging also, and we implement it also in our life. So that has that much more power, right? So one additional task to do in our sadhana is that we will chant the Hanuman Chalisa, but before we chant the Hanuman Chalisa, we will also, to ourselves only, by ourselves only, say one good sankalpa, one good desire, which we offer to Bhagwan. It could be for our family, it could be for, Jan Kalyana, right? So, just take one sankalpa, say it in your mind, offer it to Bhagwan, and then chant that Hanuman Chalisa. Okay, fine. So, what is it we benefit most when? One is we understand the meaning of what we are chanting, reflect on it, understand and revel in it, right? Then, and of course that reveling will come directly. You don't have to force it in any way, right? So here also another thing that came up in the last class was that whenever one compromises on the values and is not able to stand up to the conviction, right, then that conviction will fall apart, right? So we will, such a sadhaka, such a seeker will know immediately when he has given in to some kind of weakness, right? So yes, we are prone to some fall or the other, some mistake, and why this mistake happens? Rather, it is much more that we have certain weakness which we are unable to give up on. And for that, what is important? We have to have a stronger faith in something, so that we will not go towards that compromise. Instead, we will compromise that weakness, or rather we will sacrifice that weakness in order to go towards that higher rung, right? So when it comes to values, it has to be sacrificing the lower for the higher. When it comes to pleasures or that moha, delusion, it is, what are we doing? We are compromising the higher for the lower, and then that will lead to a fall only, right? So that is nothing but a weakness. So a sadhaka's strength comes from what? Comes from the conviction in the values, and this is what is why we have the dharma governing us, right? It is not that there is someone who is regulating this dharma visibly. It is coming about of its own account. It is there. It is there in that governance of Ishvara itself that everything comes about. So even if I don't get something, right? Like sometimes it might happen that, you are as a seeker, you have taken a sankalpa, and what happens? You say that, okay, I will not do one particular thing, or you don't say I will not do one particular thing. You tell Bhagwan that, Bhagwan, for your sake, I want you and you alone. So for your sake, I am willing to let go of that one weakness that I have. So when you pledge like this in front of Bhagwan, so Bhagwan will also say, like for everything else, Bhagwan will say. Then, as a result of that, if you come across that weakness of yours and it avoids you rather than you avoiding it, then what has happened? Then Bhagwan's that tathastu has worked for you, and then you should not feel disappointed. Then you should say that, oh, Bhagwan is on my side, Bhagwan is supporting me by not pushing me in front of that. So it could be like this, that it might be an invitation to a certain party which you want to avoid because of the bad company, or because of the other pleasures that you want to avoid, right? And you yourself have told Bhagwan that, okay, I am doing this sadhana, so Bhagwan, I don't want to get into these kind of weaknesses. I know I I might, give in when there are people who will pull me towards such weaknesses. I might give in, but Bhagwan, you are the one who can protect me from getting into this kind of weakness. So when we have said that, what are we doing? We are surrendering that weakness to Bhagwan. So if Bhagwan says Tathastu and he does, then what happens? Then if that whole situation is taken away from us, so that we don't even end up going to that place, then we should not say, oh, why didn't my friends actually invite me? I missed that party. No, you actually didn't want to be there, and that is what you had asked for. Right? So you should say, thank God. Thank you, God, you fulfilled my wish, or you took me away from that one weakness which I would have fallen for very easily, or where I would have compromised on my values very easily. So Bhagwan has done what? He has removed that situation from your hand only. Right? Where we feel helpless, there is where we should directly ask for that support from Bhagwan. And then we should be what? We should be then fully carefree. Sometimes in our camps, especially with youth, we do this trust fall. What is that trust fall? You are asked to just fall back. You might be standing at a kind of a height, and you are told you are standing straight, and what do you have to do? You have to just fall back. Then what is going to happen? Oh, you will fall back. No one is there to support you. No, right? So it is not that no one is there to support you, but you have to be able to first let go of that thought. That, oh, no one is there. How will if I fall, what is going to happen? So if we are able to let go of that, yes, I can fall back. Why? Because Bhagwan has my back. Then you will see that there will come many hands to support you, right? So yes, of course that doesn't mean that you throw caution to the winds, right? So of course, where required, whatever caution has to be taken, one has to take. And then we can say Ram Bharose, right? Like right now, many people are speculating. Oh, so many millions of people are going to this Kumbh Mela. How safe is it? How is it going to be? Too many people. Is it safe? What is going to happen? This, that, nothing. If you are able to trust that governance, then you say that okay, this happens once in 12 years. And this one is once in 144 years. So why not? Why not make it for that Kumbh and experience it for myself, right? And not then afterwards repent and say, oh, I wish I had gone, because it happens so rarely, and it is not every day that we see such a huge confluence of Santa-Mahatmas at one place. Because normally we are just reading about, we just say that, oh, there are some Mahatmas, oh, there are some Naga Babas, but we don't really normally see them. But here is one place. And why is it that they come there? Because they have that faith in that Sangam. It is not just a Sangam of 3 rivers, not just that Dravya, not just the gross, but it is much more that coming together of those 3 which represent that one knowledge. What is that one knowledge? That one knowledge of one only, one and one only. What is that one and one only? Ekameva Advitiya. One Bhagwan, Ishvara, that is in everyone. That is not away from anyone, not sitting somewhere far above, but here and now present in all of us. Right? And that coming together of the 3 is what it is merely saying that from all places, right? When the confluence happens, then a tirtha comes about. Tirtha comes about, that is nothing but that purity coming about. And in that Sangam only people are taking that dip. And that dip is what it is signifying by dip in that Jnana Ganga itself. So, Gurudev used to say, there is this one famous quote where he used to say that, okay, they were going in this boat and they were at the Sangam, and then they were saying, someone said, "Oh, there is Ganga and this side is Yamuna. So where is Saraswati?" They asked Gurudev. So then Gurudev says that, to my right is Ganga, to my left is Yamuna, and here in the center is Saraswati. Okay. He looks at himself and says, here in the center is Saraswati. Right? So it is our own nature that is being signified here. Right? So for that sadhaka, it is important to have that conviction. And what is that conviction, or where is that coming from? It is coming from the name, not just the nama, but what that nama signifies, right? Which is told where, which is told through Shruti, Smriti and Puranas, right? And these confluence of the three, Shruti, Smriti and Puranas, the essence of the three is nothing but that Tirtha. Okay, that is that Sangama. That is that one truth which emerges as Amrita. So that is what that Kumbha is signifying actually, right? So here, So here, another thing that came about in the last verse was that he says that who is a sadhu? A sadhu is not someone who is, in that sadhu vesha. It is not just the external appearance, but it is that value system that one lives that makes one that sadhu. And who has to become that? We have to become that. And that is what Tulsidas ji is saying, right? So that Vedanta is saying that, it is not that you have to find sadhus somewhere to give some dhan dakshina. It is ourselves that we have to become sadhu, right? That sadhutva has to be strived for. There has to be a struggle to walk that path. Not just that we study, not just that we chant, but also we adapt that wisdom in our lives, bring it into our acharana. Then only, what will happen? Then only that sadhutva will go to our core. So one is that, only one who walks the path will go towards that sadhutva. So that can happen that can happen even for a durachari. Even if the person is not walking the path of goodness now, that person can take a U-turn and, by the right guidance, go towards that goodness, go towards that sadhutva. So to the reverse is also possible, right? So that is where our alertness should come. So if that person who is good stops that sadhu sangama, right? Or stops that, or gives up on that goodness, or gives up on that sadhutva and goes more towards the world, then what will happen? And such a person will also lose their way. They will go the other way, right? So a person is what? A person is what one's convictions are. That is what basically you are saying. That more than just the action part of the Shastra, what is more important is not just that we act on it, but also have the right kind of conviction in what we are learning, right? So there has to be conviction, and acting with that conviction, or rather our intent should be very right. Only then we will be able to progress. So that, as is said, there is this Shubhashitani. Lalayet panchavarshani dashavarshani tavayet prapte tu shodashe varshe putre mitratvam achare. Right? So what happens? These value systems are how? These value systems are something that has to be ingrained at the right age. Right age, mane? And the child is small and is able to grasp them the right way. Then it is at that time that you are able to give those values to the child. Not when, that child has become a teenager and now says that I know my way, you don't tell me anything. Right? Then it is much more difficult to put in those values. Unless before itself you have been able to ingrain those values and the child is someone who is listening to you. So here you will say, but I don't have any children, or what are you talking about? My children are grown and they have gone their own way. So here that child is nothing but our own mind, right? So when that mind is receptive, at that time we have to keep feeding it and make it more and more receptive. So that that same mind, which is our instrument, right, that becomes much more, disciplined and much more receptive to whatever we want it to do. Right? Because we have to remember that mind is our instrument at all times. It is our karna. And for it to do as we say, what is important first? First you cajole, nicely, sweetly, make it listen to you. Then once it becomes receptive, once it is open, then you keep making it do that which is that discipline has to be enforced. Yes, that is enforced. Fine. Now what you have to do? Now you give it the knowledge that it has to. What is that? That knowledge will be there. But what has to be present? With that, for the mind to be alert and operate in a operate with a viveka buddhi, with discrimination, with alertness, so that whatever choices one makes are not emotion based or not intuitive, they are much more knowledge, they are more coming from that educated mind or educated intellect, which is guiding that mind in the right way. That mind has to be first, one has to befriend it first, only then that mind will be receptive, right? So, in the languages or in the language of the Mahatmas, when they converse, what will they ask? Like, someone like Akhandanandji Maharaj, or even now, recent times, even whenever you meet Guruji, Swami Tejavananji also, even if you are meeting him briefly, like he meets only, at certain times in the day, but, so he will ask one thing, whoever comes, people will be sitting, he will just put forth some question. And he will ask us to give our opinion about it. And that is not an opinion that he is asking for, okay? Because, even when Akhandanandji Maharaj was asking, Acha, Nishchay bataiye, tell me your conviction about this topic. So, say, suppose he says, Bolo, Anand, what is Ananda? So, now you tell me, what is your Nishchay about it? What is your conviction about it? Is it just, over the top you will say something? No. Someone who is so knowledgeable, so wise, that person is asking you to put forth your thoughts on that topic. Will you just say something? No. You will think and then you will be able to tell what that is. Right? So what is that Mahatma trying to do? That Mahatma is trying to tell you to churn your thoughts in a way that makes you reach to a conclusive end. Which has to come through what? Which has to come through the right amount of Shravana, right amount of Manana. So that there is clarity in our thought and that we are able to express just like that. So it is not a very easy thing. Therefore, just as we very easily when we go and see some Mahatma, what do? We say, Mahatma ji, I want to ask you one question. Very nice. Right? What are we doing? Are we testing there? We are only telling what? We are only sometimes telling our, our not so intelligent ways. So only of course it doesn't mean that we don't ask questions, but we ask the right kind of question, which we have thought over and we are not able to conclusively find a solution to it. That we should definitely ask any well-read, any Shrotriya Brahmanishta person, right? So here next, is the verse where Goswamiji tells about the greatness of Hanumanji. Greatness of Hanumanji as in the wealth which he has. What is the wealth which he has? So here he says अष्ट सिद्धि नवनिधि के दाता असबर दीन जानकी माता. So he says that this Hanumanji, he has great amount of wealth. What is that wealth? So he has these Ashta Siddhis, these 8 accomplishments. So what are these 8 accomplishments? And they are not just 8 accomplishments, they are not just Siddhis, plus he has this 9 forms of wealth also. Okay, so here, but from where did he get it? So he got it from that Sita ji, right? And only one who has it can give it, right? When it comes to wealth also, only when you have something you will be able to give, right? If someone comes knocking on our door and says, Bhiksha, Bhavati Bhikshande, give me some food, O Mata, then what will you do? You will say, okay, let me check what I have, then only I will be able to give you some, right? So here also, and can you, there are of course those who are misers, and they will say that first let me check how much I have, and if anything is left, then I will give for you, right? No, we should never be like that. What has always said by the wise is that as much as possible we should be able to give when it comes to what? The deserving person, not that we just with much without any proper thought we give things, not like that. We think about it, give it at the right time, and to the right person. That is how charity is to be done also as per Shastra, right? So here it says Hanumanji, he has Ashta Siddhis, and these were given to him by Sita Maya, and she not only gave them to him, she said that these I give you in such a way, now they have become yours and you can in turn give it to whoever you want. Asabaradi, Ashta Siddhi Navanidhi ke data. You become the giver, she says. She bestows on him this blessing that not only you will have these Ashta Siddhis and Navanidhis, 9 forms of wealth, you will become the data of them. You will become the giver of these wealths. So how is this going to happen? So here, first, which means what? First, which means that Sita Maya has them first. Only then she can give it to Hanumanji. Only then she can also entrust that responsibility to give it to someone, to him, right? So how did Sita Maya have them? So Sita Maya was, how did she come? She came from the Prithvi itself. She was born on the Prithvi itself, and she was a blessed child. So she had very many wealths. So did she ever use these Ashta Siddhis? Where did she use them? Was there some kind of instance? So it is told that, she did use them, and there is mention of it at 2 instances. One is that, when her marriage was to happen in Mithila, so, there was, of course, Janak Maharaj, he expected that, there will be guests coming. And they had said that, they had told, Dashrath Maharaj, you can come with whoever from the Ayodhya Puri, whoever wants to come, Ayodhya Vasis, they can accompany Dashrath Maharaj. And he just had said it. Of course, for him it meant that the family will come and maybe some part of the court will come, etc. But the love for Ramji was so much in the Ayodhya Vasis, though he was still a prince, right? The Ayodhya Vasis were so enamored by this Ramji that entire Ayodhya was ready to come. So now, when word came to Sita ji and to Janak Maharaj, they didn't know what to do, because they had, not planned for such a huge wedding. So now how is things going to happen? And Janak Maharaj was still in thought, but overnight what happened? Overnight suddenly, the whole palace was full of many people, karmacharis who came to serve. And not just that, suddenly outside everything was decorated. There was, extra places for stay, etc. Beautifully decorated ones, that too. In fact, it also in the Ramayana, it is also mentioned what kind of carvings were there, kind of woodwork was there, and it was very, very beautiful like this. Right? So, how did this come about? So, it was Sita ji with her two powers of Riddhi and Siddhi that she made this happen. Okay, so that is one instance. Then the other was, when Dashrath Maharaj had passed away, and the entire set of people who were there in Ayodhya, the queens, the queen mothers, the three queen mothers, Kaushalya, Kaikeyi and Sumitrama, they were going to come to see Rama in the forest because they were in Vanvas. Who had sent them to Vanvas? Kaikeyi had only sent them to Vanvas. But that doesn't mean that they had any kind of bad feeling towards anyone. Right? So they said, oh, Rama will be also so sad, and they also were seeking that support from him. And they went to the forest. So now Sita Ma, one is that they are living like Vanvasis. And two is, how is she to entertain these three mothers? So again, she used the Ashtasiddhis, one of the Ashtasiddhis, and what did she do? She wanted to in person serve each of the mother-in-laws. And that she brought about through her Siddhi again. Okay? So she was there one-on-one with each of the mother-in-laws and serving them. Okay, so these are the two instances where how Sita Ma's these eight siddhis and Navanidhis were there. That was shown, right? So here it is said Sita ji is the abode of the 8 powers and also 9 forms of wealth, right? And what did she do? She bestowed these on Hanumanji. So much so that she said, I wash my hands off all rights of this, no copyright, nothing. You take it and you use it as much as you want, and not just that, you give it to whoever you feel you want to bestow it on. So she said, I give it to you whole and soul, right? So these supernatural powers, how are they gained? Can one just get some kind of siddhi? Because this is what many people ask. Even when now also many people, when they are going to this Kumbh Mela, they are asking, oh, are there people who have some kind of siddhis? Can we meet them? Can we get some kind of siddhis? Like someone just puts their hand on you and you just become what? Become what? Whatever you wish. Will that be possible? So one is that to have the siddhi might be a, some kind of magic wonder. Yes. But will we or are we capable of handling that siddhi in its right way, in a responsible way, is much more important. Right? One who has the power, do they know how to wield that power? Use it in the right way. That is much more important. He might ask for one thing and Bhagwan will give it also. But have I made myself capable and responsible enough to hold on to that kind of power? That is much more important. Right? So now what are these, powers? So in the book also, in the Hanuman Chalisa book where Guruji has written commentary, Guruji has not only told, first he has told what are these siddhis, what are these powers as such, what do they signify, what was the power that Hanumanji had because of these, and then further, he has also given us how to, in today's day and age, what is the applied intent of this? How do I implement it in my life? And is it that we have to have this siddhi? So like when the siddhi is something like anima. What is anima? Anima is the ability to become very small, tiny. When you are telling children, there's a lot of fun and wonder in doing this. Because you will say that, one was, just imagine Hanumanji, how he was tall and powerful, and then suddenly he can become very small. Like how? Like a mosquito. Masaka saman. So he could become Masaka Saman. He could become like a small insect, not just insect, a mosquito basically, right? So that is that, right? And then second is Mahima. Mahima is what? Mahima in contrast to Anima is to become very huge. Like, when did he become very huge? He used that when he had to counteract with Surasa, where he wanted to, first he became very big, right? He became like a mountain, and then, to escape from the jaws, what did he become? He became very small, Masaka Saman, and he escaped from her mouth, right? So, one is Anima, next one is Mahima, and then further is Garima. Garima is to become very heavy, like when Bhima came in front of him and he was testing Bhima. What happened? His tail became very heavy, Then Bhima, who thought he was so strong, he couldn't lift that one tail itself, right? So that is Garima. Then further is Laghima. Laghima is what? Laghima is to become very light, and it was only with this lightness that he could travel through air. He went across the ocean and he went towards the Himalayas to get that Parvat, right? The Mayanak Parvat. Then further, what did he do? Not only he brought the Parvat for Sanjeevani, then once its use was done, then he went back to place it back also. And then further what? Next one is Prapti. What is Prapti? The ability to make one's desire complete. Then next one is what? Prakamya. Prakamya is literally teleporting. Teleporting, if I want to reach from one place to the other, or from the other place to here, it can just happen like this, right? So that is Prakamya. Prakamya can also mean, the other word, another is over there is Prakashya. Someone who has the ability to light up. They're like a glowworm. It has its own light. It doesn't need to carry a torch with it, right? It has its own light with which it glows and makes other things seen and known, right? So when Lord Krishna, he had this kind of a body where, these gopis, they would always be complaining. He said, how much to hide that butter? That butter, no matter how much we hide it from that Krishna, somehow, he comes with his gopas, and in the darkness also if we keep, what happens? His body is glowing with this brilliance, and because of that, everyone in the darkness also, they can find where that butter is hidden. Okay, so that is that Prakamya. Then, or rather Prakamya, and the other is Prakashya. And then the next one is Ishitvam. Ishitvam is, the ability to lead, right? And the other one is ability to control. So that is Ishitvam and Vashitvam. Okay. So these are actually those powers which are Ashta Siddhis. And then you will say that, how do I in today's day and age become very small, or become very large like a mountain, and people will become scared of me. Then Marvel comics or DC comics will make a new character of me. So here we have to also see what is the implied or applied meaning of this, that we can apply in our own lives, right? So when we say Laghima, not Laghima, when we say, let's start with Mahima, right? Not Mahima also. Let's start with Anima. So the first one is Anima, next one is Mahima. So first one is what? When we say to become small. When we say to become small is what? To become small is to not have that ego. Let go of that pride and recede into the background. When we want to show our humanity, what should one become? One should, in the best way possible, live a life of a humble person, right? Where one doesn't always have to say that, oh, this I did. This is what I achieved. That one didn't do. I was the one who was backing the whole thing. Right? If we were really backing it, then we can just recede in the background. Like Bhagwan does all the time. Everything is happening. How is it happening? Without that Bhagwan's touch in anything, nothing is going to happen. But what do? We say, I did it. Right? So that ahamta, mamata is not going only. Right? So here that anima is letting go of that ego, becoming humble. How? Through humility. Or through that ability to bow down to that one support. So Hanumanji was how? Everything that I am doing, Hanumanji was saying, whatever I am doing in the service of Ramji only. So when we bring that higher altar into our lives, when we are able to surrender to it, then whatever we do, we say that I am doing it for him. So then to become small is just very natural. There is no, and not just in front of Bhagwan, but knowing that everything is Bhagwan's only. So who am I, right? So here, there was, of course, there is one story of Chidananji Maharaj of Divine Life Society, who was Guru Bhai of our Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmaya. And always, even Gurudev would always, with great humor also, he would say that here is someone to bow down to. And there is this episode with which, Akhandananji Maharaj used to talk of, where Akhandananji Maharaj himself is a great Mahatma. And he was once asked, by a devotee in one sabha, he was asked, Mahatma Ji, what is this Nirmama and Nirahankara? Can you tell us, can you shed some light? So what is Nirmama? Nirmama is not having that attachment to anything. Nirahankara is what? Being without any kind of ego. So when he was asked this, so Akhandananji Maharaj said, oh, you want to know what is Nirmama Nirahankara? Here is this Mahatma. So he pointed towards Chidananji Maharaj, who was, he was not even sitting fully in his seat. Because out of such reverence to Akhandananji Maharaj, he was just sitting at the edge of the seat. So there he said, this Maharaj here, he is that Nirmama Nirahankara. He is that embodiment of that. And now, you have to understand that when a Mahatma says something, then another person, someone who of course reveres that Mahatma will not, one is that person can't deny what that person is saying. Why? Because denying what that Mahatma is saying is like disagreeing with them or trying to argue with them. So out of so much of reverence that he had for Akhandananji Maharaj, one is that he can't say, oh no, that is not true, no, that is how any of us might react, right? But when this other Mahatma is there, who is the very embodiment of that humility, how was his response? He says, when a Mahatma is saying that there is a bag in another room, and that room is closed, and you can't even see that, you can't see inside of that room also, then that Mahatma when that Mahatma is saying that there is a bag in that room, then what is it? The Mahatma has himself kept that bag there, and only then can say that there is a bag there. Right? So too, if Mahatma Ji here says that, this person has this value, but it is only because he has placed that value there, and therefore he is able to claim that this value sits on this person. Okay? So with such humility, Chidananji said that it is only because he is great, or he has that humility in him. Only with that humility he is able to tell that this other person has this humility. So one who has it only can see it in another. basically. Right? So that is that being anima. Anima being small, not in size, not in physical size, but more in terms of our pride. Taking a step back when it is not required to pump up our ego, just taking that step back. If you ask children, what will you do with this anima? They will say, oh, if I am late for the class or if I want to go play, then I will become very tiny anima and I will leave the class and come, or I will enter the class if I am late. That is how they will say. But we can't do that, right? So what should we do? We should learn to become small in our pride. Especially, when it comes to learning. Learning not just from great Mahatmas, but also any person around us. Giving that respect for that other person. Rather than putting all respect here. I should have that respect. Only then I will. Right? If no one is inviting you, fine. That person didn't invite me and therefore, what has happened? I am not going to go. No. Instead, what should you do? Praise that person. Oh. Or maybe you see that, give that benefit of doubt for that person. That, maybe that person has forgotten, right? Or for whatever reason is overburdened with something. Have you tried asking that person, how was your day? Are you feeling okay? Right? Then try to, as they say, try to sit in that other person's shoes. Then only we'll know what the other person is doing, right? So for that, what is important? To become humble is important. Right? Next one is that becoming huge, mahima. So mahima is what? The mahima over there is not, to make my ego big in contrast to making it small. No, it is not that. It is more about stepping up my capability. Right? When the situation calls for it, stepping up my capability or ability to face a particular opportunity which has arisen. So, how did Hanumanji, what did he do? When required, he had to become like a Parvata Saman. Right? So here also, what is it? It is said, Samarthya Vistara. Samarthya Vistara, my Samarthya is my capability, which I might right now think my capability is just this much. Right? Only I can scale my work only up to this height. But the situation calls for a taking up of a more higher kind of a role. Role in what way? Not just in name way, not in terms of the position itself, but much more in terms of how much of support and resource I can become for that particular role that I am playing. So, stepping up my capability is mahima. So that mahima, when will it come? When we set our goals higher, right, beyond the normal reach, then that coming up or rising up to that occasion will come up very easily. Right? And then is garima. So that garima, when you say becoming heavy, or how does that come about? Garima is, it is not to be, that ability to not be swayed around by whatever paristiti comes about or whatever circumstance comes about. There are definitely going to be changes happening. So that doesn't mean that with each change I sway with the change. No. I remain stable in my convictions. And that brings about that firmness in my resolve also. Right? So, when will this conviction come? When my knowledge is strong. When my intellect is educated, then what will happen? Then my decisions will be firm. Then I will not be swayed by any situation that comes about. So, to walk the path, what is important? To have the conviction is important. So, the heaviness is not in terms of my opinion, the heaviness is in terms of my firm resolve to be with the convictions that I have ingrained in myself. Right? And then laghima. Laghima, as we said, what? It is to become light. So here, how will I become light? What does it mean? So there will be so many difficult situations. to laugh them off, that is Lagima. Like Gurudev Swami Chinmayaji's one name in the Ashtottara is Om Vinoda Priyaya Namaha. Right? So the other is also Vinaya Shilaya Namaha. These are nothing but, the of a wise person. What is that? To be able to laugh off at any kind of, seemingly serious situation. Because for such a person, what is it? How serious can life get? That which is mithya, how much seriousness will you give? Will you give seriousness to a dream? It came, it happened. Let go of it. No? How will you let go of it? When you are able to laugh it off. So if some mistake happens, how much will we mope around? No. Rise up. So that rising up is through humor. So you have so many instances of such people like Tenali Ram or like Nasruddin Khwaja, right? So there was Mullah Nasruddin's one story, it goes that, there was this, like how today's day and age we have these stand-up comedians. So like this one great stand-up, some popular stand-up comedian came to the king's court, and his jokes were not at all funny. None could laugh at them. And people were not knowing, whether it was them only, who were not able to digest those jokes, or was it everyone in general. So, suddenly they saw Mullah Nasruddin laughing out loudly, fully as if he has thrown caution to the wind. He is just laughing and even rolling on the floor like that. And those around him suddenly started whispering and asking him, Mullaji, are you really seeing the joke in what he is saying? And he said, I don't see any joke in what he is saying. But if I don't laugh, he will repeat that joke again and again. So it is better that I laugh it off and make him happy and let him go home. Right? So that is that ability. Every difficulty, some bright spot, right? And not take life so seriously, right? Like how Lord Krishna himself says, Ma Shucha. Throughout the Bhagavad Gita, what is the essential message that he is giving? Ma Shucha, right? So that is something which we have to also take. Then in terms of prapti or what does it mean? Prapti, does it mean that I'll get the siddhi of accomplishing all my wishes? So for a child it might be that, if I want an ice cream now, I will just say and Bhagwan will say Tatastu and I will get the ice cream. No. What did we say? When we ask for something, it comes with a lot of conditions applied. Okay. So we have to also think it through. What is it that I am asking for? Will I be able to stand up to what is given to me? Then I should ask for it. Otherwise it is going to be heavy on me, right? So here, what does this prapti mean? Prapti is not just, making true of what making our wishes fulfilled. But here prapti is actually a person who is a go-getter. A person who is not able to just say that this I can make it happen. But much more it is about the ability to mobilize resources. Like at present, actually I see this is a great business model actually, in which, I'm sure in future years, people will, the management schools might be speaking of it. What is that? The present Kumbh Mela. We are just seeing it happen right now, right? But maybe for a year or more, they've been mobilizing resources and thinking how things will be placed, what all will be required for this huge amount of crowd which is going to come to this place. How many routes have to be in place, on road, by train, by flight. It is not just going to come about just in 1-2 months or those 2 months. or rather for that 1 month. You need X number of people. You need for those people to be, placed in various areas. For that, the planning of those areas, where will the tents be, what kind of facilities will be required, how many employees will be required to service those facilities, how many people will be required to service those people who are serving, how many people will be required to manage those resources, etc. What kind of emergency requirements will have to be placed, etc. So for doing all this, what has to happen? There has to be some go-getter planner who's sitting on top of it, who has worked on it, not just by himself but with a team, who has mobilized that team and then has made this happen, right? So that is that Prapti, one who is the one who can visualize and put that vision into implementation. Okay, so that is Prapti. Then the other is Prakamya, or Prakashya. How is that going to come about? How is teleporting or how is illuminating oneself, becoming a glowworm, how can that be applied or implemented in our life? Here, what it means is to be agile, to be adaptable to various situations which we might face. So, what does that mean? To be flexible to take on the roles. In today's day and age, this is something that most of us would want to have, right? Because competition is so high, the responsibilities are greater, and doesn't want to be burnt out. There is also that fear of missing out, FOMO, right? So for that, what is that one siddhi that one has to have? Is that all this prakamya, or being agile, right? Then then there is the ishitvam and vashitvam. Ishitvam is to be a governor or is to be a leader, and vashitvam is not just to be the leader but to have that ability to control. So how are these two going to be brought about? Not without love, not without the habit of, not without the value of love and concern in place, love and understanding in place. So I will just tell this one instance about it and then we will close. So all of us know about the 26/11 blast which had happened in Mumbai, right, where the Taj was attacked, and the hotel Taj was attacked, and a lot of damage happened, but much of it could have happened which was somehow saved because of certain people in place. So it is said that there were some 50 employees who knew the exit entry routes. They knew exit routes which were already placed in that building, and these people could have left, but they didn't leave that building at all. In that situation also, till the next day also, when all the damage had been done, the terrorists had also left, the police had also left, but till everything was cleared, everyone was, and on the second day, what they did was, those people who had been trapped in the hotel and needed some kind of assistance, they cooked meals for them, they served them as best as possible, and in such a situation, not abandon their duties, right? So when a reputed organization did a study on this, management study on this, and they checked how is this that this company, this Taj, has such employees who are so dedicated, and not just towards Taj but towards this country itself, right? So then they found out that the employees came not just with their credentials, but it was value-based interviews that were done. It was not just that people saw their accolades in terms of scholarly attainments or any of these, But what they did was, whenever the people at such positions in Taj were employed, the interviewers had gone not just to great institutes, they had gone to villages even, and they had seen the ability of resilience, of values which was in place in these people whom they employed. So they had a model of value-based recruitment. And that is how they had such sincere, dedicated people in place. Such that, even the employers over there, they said that for such employees, they had given the free hand, that if you feel a situation calls for, giving more than what, that institution is able to give, then you go ahead and give where the situation calls for it. When you have to serve much more, then go ahead and take a call. You don't even have to ask the management for it, right? So in today's age, what is important, as it was in earlier times also, that conviction in our values is much more important than just the superficial leadership. It is not the ability that Vashitvam or governance or leadership is not in terms of controlling people through position, but much more, finding a place in their hearts through your love and understanding. That is much more important. That is what leaves the right impression in the minds of people wherever we go. Okay, so we will stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. बोलिए सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, उमापति महादेव की जय, बोलो भय सब संतन की जय। हर हर नमः पार्वती पदे, हर हर महादेव। श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। हरि